Say the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call. I am the planning commission chair. I'm Tammy Higgins. Patricia Dunn is secretary. And Dan, take it away.
I suppose I'll stand. For anybody who doesn't know, I'm Dan Alderson. I am the new liaison member to the township board, as well as a member here on the planning commission. I just want to take a moment to introduce myself. I wasn't at the last meeting, I was out of town. However, I've been a lifelong Iosco Township resident here since I was born. I began on the Internet Feasibility Committee in the township here back in 2015, and I served as chairperson on the planning commission here beginning in 2016 and ending last year. So just wanted to give you a brief overview and say hello. Thanks.
Mary Wood, recording secretary. She may be late. All right, and then the next item is keeping the physical agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as stated.
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Then our next item would be the approval of the minutes. The last meeting.
I'll move to approve the April 11th, 2023 minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor? So that will bring us to our first call to the public. This time I'm gonna, everyone will have a chance to speak, you know, it's the 3 minutes, but I'm gonna go row by row. So we'll go the first row, second row, and third row. That way we kind of just make sure everybody gets a chance to speak and do it orderly. And then I guess I'll ask some of the people out in the field if they want to say anything. So, would you like the first row, would anyone like to say anything?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, there'll be a second call to public, as I'm sure you're aware. Second row?
I'll speak. I don't have a lot to say tonight. Aaron Harmon, live on Munsell Road. I would like to ask that the Planning Commission discuss and provide an update regarding the meeting that was supposed to take place last week that Joe had talked about at the last board meeting, that there was supposed to be a meeting with the attorney, and I'd just like to, hopefully you guys will talk about that during your meeting. And moving forward on the solar ordinance, I just want to make y'all aware of what County Iosco Townships have been working on. They're both getting pretty close to finalizing their plans for utility solar in their townships. They both will have a very comprehensive ordinance that is roughly 20 pages in length. They join Marion and Handy Townships in creating strong restrictions for this land use. They are both implementing a utility solar overlay of somewhere in the range of 80 to 130 acres with 500-foot setbacks. Among countless other important restrictions, as you may already know, Marion Township has also already implemented a solar overlay district of 170 acres, 90 of which is in the process of being rezoned to residential. To be very honest, even after all the research I've done and countless hours I've spent on this, I still struggle with the fact that this is quite obviously an industrial land use. Industrial land is used for commercial establishments, manufacturing plants, public utilities, mining, etc. There's a substation on the end of my road, and that property is zoned industrial, as it should be. One could argue that we already allow things like wind turbines and cell towers on agricultural land, and that would be a viable argument, but those things don't come close to having the footprint of utility solar plants. Their impact is far less than what we're talking about with solar. And that is what this all boils down to, is impact. Although we all know that this is an industrial land use, the powers that be want us to all pretend that it's an agricultural use, hence the carefully marketed term solar farm and harvesting the sun. My point is that our ordinances must only allow this on a level that is absolutely necessary with the least impact to our township, adjacent properties, wildlife, and the environment. I don't know how that can be possible without an overlay district. I would also like to ask their planning commission if you guys are paying attention to Lansing, excuse me, and the bills that are currently in the House and Senate surrounding local zoning. Currently, there are a couple items of concern. House Bills 4526 to 28 were sent to the House Regulatory Committee just this morning. These bills are aimed at sand and gravel mining preemption. And there's also Senate Bill 0277, which is a bill to amend the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act by allowing utility solar on all farmland without regard to local zoning. There's a petition right now on the Michigan Township Association's website in an attempt to combat the House Bills 4526 to 28. We should all be concerned about Lansing controlling the zoning in our townships.
Time's up. Thank you, Erin. Anyone else in the second row? Anyone out in the field?
Can I give my minutes to Erin?
If sure. If you want.
That's what I want to do.
Thank you, I'm finished. I appreciate it.
Go ahead.
I just one comment on Aaron's. I think there was also a Livingston County board meeting that commented on the Marion Township, and I think they had some very interesting comments. If you hadn't had a chance to see it, you guys should make sure that should be part of your inquiry in terms of references, because they've already commented on that, and they actually added some things that they want them to go back on in Marion Township to actually supplement or do some kind of financial monetary to those that are impacted by it. So they were taking it, they liked it, and then they were taking it a couple more steps. So just kind of a reference point to you guys. The other thing is, Joanna Parker and I had a private conversation probably a couple weeks ago. One of the things that was surprising to me is he had mentioned that he really liked when somebody in this meeting, or maybe it was another meeting, made a presentation to them and gave them articles. So I'm just going to give you one article this week, but you'll get a few more next week. I don't want to overload you because there's lots of different things. But this is, the article says the hard truth of building clean solar farms. They talk about some states where this has been implemented, some 10, 15 years ago. They talk about how the DOJ as well as the EPA have fined these companies because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. And really, there's actually a quote here from somebody from Michigan State, I think he's a professor, that actually says something about, we don't want to make sure there's any mistakes 10 years from now. So if you guys would like this, you can make some copies and just use as reference.
Can we have that copy?
What's that?
Can I have this copy?
Absolutely.
Copy?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have anything else that's all you want to say?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, the third row. Anyone want to speak? And the last row, Diane.
Nope, I'm good today, thank you.
And you ladies over there at the camera, you have anything you want to say?
I'm good.
You're good?
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so then we'll close that first call to public. There's no public hearings. So now I'm going to move to unfinished business, section 1319 of the solar energy systems, which is what most of you are here for. Nothing too much to report other than I do have a meeting set up on May 31st at 5 o'clock. It's not open to the public because that's what the township board had said. And I have, Homier said he was going to be there. That was the day he was available. I did ask him to respond by email to confirm that they are coming. I set it up, and he's the only one who hasn't, but he did say he was available on that date. And our lawyer, John Harris, his secretary, did respond back that John will be here, and Mark Idelson, our land planner, will be here. And I will be there, and so will Dan. So if Michael Homier is going to be there, then we'll have our land workshop on revising, presenting all those ideas. We have the list, and we're going to talk about all your concerns that you guys have been saying here.
Is there going to be a public one after this?
Okay, what we're gonna do first, and I can try to explain that, is we're gonna take all your concerns and how many workshops we have to get through all of that with the lawyers and what would work good. It never gets passed without looking at it first. There will be a public hearing, to have you guys look at it, and if you don't, if there's things in there that we overlooked, or there was an oversight, or it's like just terribly,
So we're not going to have a question and answer like we was having at home here?
we'll give you plenty of time to get that draft to look
Just
over,
from us
and we'll have a
giving you
public
stuff?
hearing.
There's also going to be a town hall.
There'll be a town hall.
Yeah.
Put on.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that we have a confirmed date on that yet, but as of the last board meeting,
Yes.
There will be a
there was
town hall.
a town hall set up.
This will be a
And
town hall
it's
of our, after we've revised it to the workshops, so people have
I
time
thought
to
it
look
was
at it.
before.
So we're in the
I
middle.
thought it was like in the middle.
With Homier, and it's probably going to take place in one of the schools. So anyway, that was.
I just would
what
think it would be
Julie had
good,
said.
if we're gonna do that, that they have time to look at what we put together on the workshop.
Sure.
What do you think?
We can talk to Julie. on
So
that.
obviously it's going to be
One of the ones that
June
we have.
sometime, probably?
Well, I mean, our first meeting for the workshops is May 31st, and I'm not gonna think, I think we've done these workshops before when we really did a big revision of our ordinance, and it's not like we did it in one meeting.
If I can interrupt
Go
you,
ahead.
Jenny, what you're talking about is being handled at the township board level, not the planning commission
Oh, okay,
level.
so they.
So that will be
Okay.
discussed, I'm sure, next week.
Next week,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
I mean, at a minimum, I'm thinking at least 3 meetings to work on that solar ordinance. Because like, besides us talking it over with the lawyers, then we kick it around and different ideas and,
So there's
Discussion.
the planning and the board that's going to be at the
no,
workshop?
it's just us,
Just planning
just-
commission?
just planning commission.
You
And-
two off the thing.
Yes, us two of the planning commission, Homier, Harris, and Mark from Land Plan. And then we have a public hearing, right? And then if everyone agrees, let's pretend like we got it all where everyone likes it, then it goes to the township board to ultimately approve. And that's when it gets adopted.
Well,
Right.
and sent to county.
And sent to the county, and they have to approve it as well, if they see something egregious or something, but, so. I hope that clarifies it for people, that, it takes a long time.
And of course, we're still in the moratorium.
Yes, yes,
How
and
long
if
is
things
your
are
moratorium?
completed, there's no,
March
I can't
26th or
speak, because I don't have the
September 26th.
authority for it, but I believe that the moratorium can be extended, right? Yes. Okay,
So the moratorium, what are we down to now, 4 months, 5 months?
I think it's till September, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, it was the 6 months, so it's till September. All right, the next item is commercial kennels. I know Ann has talked with the animal control officer. I emailed him, because I did look over the ordinance, and maybe you guys have questions on it. I know Ann had highlighted, what we were given was this one section of the, I didn't know if it was section 7, A through K, is what he wanted to match our ordinance, or what, and I asked him some questions, if that's what he wanted. Also, the fee structure, because it says in here that's set by the board of commissioners, and if we go with that, with the county road, is that wrong? And then they look at kennels like as a business type thing. And I want to know, would we like to have kennel sizes for, if you're not selling your dogs or breeding them, but you want to have 20? And if there's restrictions on that. Because right now, I don't see anywhere in their ordinance or ours. I just know in the past, I was deputy treasurer, I used to sell dog licenses and used to have kennel licenses. This is back in 2004. If you had 4 or more dogs, you had to have a kennel license.
And I think that was it several years ago when we first bought and moved in back in 2010, that if it was more than 4 or 5 or whatever.
I think, yeah, it was,
Something like that, that you had to have a kennel license.
yeah, but I haven't been deputy treasurer since like 2006 or something, so.
Right.
Okay, So hopefully we can get that nailed down and that can be clear. And I'm saying this to everyone too, I have concerns about the number of dogs because I did live here when people got killed by large dogs that got loose. And I'm big on safety. Okay, so that's really, I think that covers 2012 2 personal dogs.
Yes.
So, there is no new business. Anybody have anything else they want to discuss before I keep moving on? Because I know I'll just start all of these ones. Our next meeting will be June 13th. And now we go to Township Board report.
You know what? I actually don't, and I apologize, but I was at last month's meeting. Of course, I was appointed as trustee for the township board. And maybe you can help me a little bit on this, because I know you were also there. I know we had talked about the potential for a board-sponsored town hall to likely take place at the Fallerville District Schools. I have not gotten an update on that, but of course, next week in the board meeting, I'm sure we'll have more information on that forthcoming. And you want to give me a hand here, I apologize.
Oh, no, that's fine. The board approved money towards the mowing of the nature center on Roberts Road, which is done on an annual basis. If you have never been out to that nature center, it's very nice to walk. It's very, very cool out there. The sheriff's department report was read. I don't know about anybody else, but I feel it's being effective.
Yeah.
In our area.
I mean, yeah.
Gorski had done his cleanup, annual cleanup on the sides of the roads. I know we still have a few issues. There's some tires over at Iosco Road that we're gonna have Granger come get. So. And then, of course, solar. We are looking into Civic Plus to run our website so it's more user-friendly. And then you'd be able to sign up for newsletters and whatnot. And then talking about drain number 22 work that's proposed by the Livingston County Drain Commission. And then the road commission projects. I know Bull Run is going to be worked on. I believe part of Roberts, 2 parts of Roberts. Don't quote me on that one this year.
Do you know what they're doing for Bull Run?
They're going to chip and seal it in. I know, but I'm speaking personally, we are one of the best roads in the township.
It truly is.
Our township has done a very good job of
They
taking care
have,
of the roads.
yeah.
I'm like, I mean, I get it, 'cause we both live at the bottom of the township, so it's going to affect us for a couple days.
But, you know,
Yeah.
it does well.
Yes.
They've done well.
Yeah.
That makes it very fast.
You're welcome.
You good? Well, Ann, you're back on.
I'm back on, all right.
That's my administrator.
So I have issued 11 permits of the year. Of those 11 permits, 4 of them are for new houses. In addition to those 11 permits, I've issued 1 waiver. The previous reported complaints are progressing more so than others. We've gotten a few things cleaned up. I did receive a new complaint today of a possible camper situation on Elliott Road that I will have to go out and investigate.
Yeah, that one.
Okay. I got a written complaint on that today, so.
I know that one.
Gotcha.
Caution.
Well, that's why we have a contract with the sheriff's department. So, yeah, that's all I have today.
Everybody good? All right, no ZBA. All right, that brings us to the second call of public. You on, first row?
I'm Bill. Yeah, I had an employee of mine, and his dad worked for DT&E. And he came into Scrimmel one day, and he said, you know, DT&E really took the employees and the white collar workers to the cleaners on their pension plan. So, you know, you're talking 30 years. Anyway, so I looked up this morning just to see what it was all about. And they had a class action lawsuit, which, of course, the state ruled in DTE's favor. And I wonder what's gonna happen to people that sign these leases with DTE when Fermi 2 gets refueled and the Palisades nuclear power plant comes back and is recommissioned. In a couple of years, it'll be online. And I think if DTE does this to their own employees, what are they gonna do to the people that are leasing the land from them? I mean, these leases seem to be too good to be true. And I've always learned in my lifetime that if things seem to be too good to be true, that they are. So, I don't know, you know, what they're gonna do, but I know what they've done. And I know there's class action lawsuits going on about their pension programs and what they've done to their employees. And if you got thousands and thousands of employees in a class action lawsuit, what are they gonna do to 10 farmers who have leases with them in 5 years when all these power plants, these nuclear power plants are online, and there's not gonna be any need for the energy that these solar farms are gonna put out? That's all I gotta say.
Thank you. Second row?
I'm from Iosco Township. I just want to say I'm very proud of you guys for opening this back up. We've been fighting it for 10 months over it in Iosco Township. And we really didn't want you guys to be the one where it fell on because your ordinance was so weak. So I'm very happy that you guys are stepping up and getting in the same level as Iosco and Conway. They both have very strong ordinances, very fair ordinances also. So nice to see you guys stepping up and taking a look. So don't hesitate to, look at our ordinances and get some ideas. Some of it's a cut and paste on it, so.
Is that it? Thank you. Thank you. Third row? Fourth row?
Me. Hi, I'm Ann. I have a couple of questions regarding the workshop. And the workshop that you're planning to hold on May 31st, could you bring copies of the ordinance in the working form just to the next meeting, just so we can kind of see where you guys are going? Maybe it may be no more than just highlights of issues that will be addressed, but if those could be available to the public and just, stamp it as working, that would give us an idea as to kind of the general direction that you're going, just for transparency purposes. And then also, if there's maybe meeting minutes from that workshop, might be helpful too, if we could have, those available somewhere, maybe on a website or a few handouts. And then the other thing I had a question about is if there is a signed contract with Michael Homier, if that's been done already, or if that's going to be not till May 31st.
Are you set?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything else I'd like to say?
I wasn't going to come tonight, but my husband, he said, why? It's all set in stone. It's probably all set. Everything's been signed, sealed. I said, you know what? I'm going to go because I want to make a difference. I'm 3 parcels down from Burma Farms. And there's been gravel trains dumping gravel down there on the farm fields, on the edges, creating roadways. So don't tell me that what we're doing is senseless. This is ridiculous. Who's being paid? I'd like to know. Because if they're doing this, I saw them doing it on Mason Road too. Mason Hall Road by 52. That's not our area, but something's going on.
Are you talking about, wait, can I?
Go ahead.
Are you talking about right just east of 52 on Mason Road?
Yes.
That's a pipeline going through. I don't know
No,
where
they're
it starts.
dumping gravel trains of gravel.
I don't know what the gravel trains
So
are.
that's what they were doing at Burma Farms today too, because
Okay, I don't
I
know
live right
about
down
Burma.
there and I've been checking on it.
Okay, but if you,
So-
you can come down Mason Road, you can
Huh?
come down Iosco Road, you can come down, what's the next one? Brogan?
Brogan, Swan, Dexter.
There's a pipe, what, is it gas?
It's
Yeah.
the gas, it's
Okay.
the gas, it's, I think it's consumers. 'cause
And that goes, oh my gosh. I
Well,
don't know.
they had sticks, post all
That's where
over,
she's
like they're
talking
mapping
about, it's
something
not
out.
the gas line.
At up here or at Burma's?
There, so
Okay.
what I'm trying to say is that I feel like whatever is going to happen is going to happen because we're not being heard. This needs to stop. They don't need thousands of acres of land to put solar panels on. They just don't need that. Why? It's all about greed.
It's a green energy initiative,
It's
starting
greed.
in Washington.
It's greed. We don't need that many acres of land for solar per township.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if that's the same thing on Dexter Trail.
Yes, it is.
That's
That
the
is
gas line.
That's the gas line?
Well, how can we trust when we feel
I
like we're not being,
I personally stopped and asked.
Defended.
When I went through, and they told me it was the consumer's gas line, because I was curious. And they had to be flagged down and stopped anyway, so.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Okay, so as having experience with pipelines and not being happy about it, all that, I mean, I don't know about Burma's, but when they're doing a pipeline, when you see that, there has been months and months of negotiations between, I mean, landowners, when a pipeline comes through, we have no choice. They're coming through.
Yeah.
And we can fight it, but we don't stop them. I mean, especially when one is already there. You're not gonna stop it. But that's not something that just happened out of the blue.
Well, that's.
They've been talking.
but why is it all of a
Because the
sudden?
gas lines are safe, so we don't care. if
All of a
the gas
sudden.
goes down.
All of a sudden it's happening.
What I'm saying is, it hasn't, it's been going on. And
You're
if
talking about
you
the
talk to
solar.
some of the landowners, they
No,
probably
all
will
the
tell you it's
gravel
been going
dumping.
on
Why
for
is it
years.
happening all of a sudden
Been in the
now? On
planning.
these fields, they have signed leases.
What's that?
Does anybody know about the gravel dumping that she, I think that's.
That-
the
yeah, I
question.
don't know.
I think she's asking about the gravel
Why is
dumping. Does
gravel
anybody
being
know that
dumped?
they're doing
Everybody
gravel
has
dumping?
been seeing gravel being dumped at
No.
places. I
And
can
it's
go
happening
by.
in the fields that have signed leases.
Oh, that I have no idea.
So is that something that somebody can take up and maybe we can, I mean, if you're gonna investigate a trailer, do you investigate people dumping gravel? Is that,
Consumers Energy
If
could
you're
have signed
dumping
an
gravel for
agreement
your
with the
driveway, I'm
farmer
not gonna come
to use their land
investigate
to
you.
store products.
I mean,
You know, they can't
they
just,
have their roads too.
you know, build a pipeline. They store the products and they have to get a lot of products in one place, in one area, right?
Or a staging area.
In a staging area. So
Right.
they
For
could
the
very well
gas.
just have signed an agreement with Burma Farms because they have the land to store the products, and it might not be for solar at all, right? It just is a good location, just
They've
like when they
already signed a
redo a
lease.
highway, they pick an area and that's where all the products go, and you see, you know, it's the same thing. All that pipeline has to be filled with aggregate, right? So,
Yeah, I don't know.
I think she's just concerned.
yeah,
Do you suggest like somebody go there and talk to Burma Farms to ask them, is this gravel here for a pipeline or a holding staging area, or is it for
if it's.
solar?
Does
It's for
anyone,
solar.
I don't mean to interrupt everybody, you're all welcome to talk, I mean, just, this is the meeting. If anyone, if you guys are all done, or you don't have anything else for us, I'm gonna probably end the meeting. And, okay, go ahead.
This gal asked a question.
Oh, yeah, that's
I took
right,
it-
no, thank you for reminding me, because we all started talking about other things, and I was like, wait, we're not having a meeting. Yes, Ann wanted to know about meeting minutes. I think we'll have to check to see, because typically when we've had our like workshop meetings before, we didn't really take meeting minutes. Because it's more of a discussion. And a lot of times, I mean, how I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you guys were there, the land planner takes a lot of our ideas, and I'm sure he will take what the lawyers say, and he puts it into a draft, which we would then get. We look at it, we're like, we don't understand this, please clarify, or you missed something, and then we kick it back to him, and he revises it again. That's kind of how that works. And we're not going to have like a copy of it right then and there to share with you. So I'm not sure about that, as far as like the working stuff and the minutes. I mean, I will try to take notes myself to update you, like maybe what we got through or what we addressed, if that will suffice.
That will help, thank you.
Okay, anything else about, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna ask again, and maybe, because I didn't ask it in this meeting, so maybe I should have. I'm not sure why there isn't at least one representative from the crowd.
I don't have that authority. That's
Okay.
the township board. I'm just gonna say, you all think we have much more authority than we do.
Okay, so
I
the
don't-
board actually, they're the only
They're the
ones
ones
that
who
could
set
rule
up
on
the
that.
system that
And-
we're
and the-
having.
Okay,
Okay.
and the individuals that, as I understand it, that ruling was, I'll say a month and a half, 2 months ago, that somebody must have proposed it before I got into these meetings. Somebody proposed it, they turned it down, but then consequently, about a few weeks later, 2 of the members that were on the board voted not against it, but they're no, now they've abstained from those rulings. It just seems to me that between the planning commission, which is the one that's running the show, and then the township board of, it seems like somebody should be able to at least have a representative. You've done it, let me just say, you've done it for other things. You've done it for the internet. You've done it for other things where you've had people that are not on the board participate. And I don't know if they went well or they didn't go so well, but I don't think that should be a driver. That shouldn't be a driver for something as important as this. If the internet was important enough that somebody had an idea of bringing someone aboard the meeting, then I would say that this particular topic, this particular subject matter, is even more, 10 times the amount, if not even more so. And that should make that decision a little bit. I just like you guys to kind of, I think there's a representative or two that would be fair. I'm just saying, it would help both sides. It would help you guys convincing us that the ordinance was fair and transparent, and you guys did your homework. And I'm just trying to help you guys out just a little bit on tough decisions and tough things that are going down the line, because it's going to get to a point where you're right. You're working, and all of a sudden there's going to be an ordinance that came, and so I'm just trying to see if there's a little wiggle room for individuals to kind of say, wait a second, we understand there could be a person in this audience that seems to be well versed on this topic who would not be controversial in the meeting. Why wouldn't we want to bring one person from this kind of group so that this kind of group knows that they're sort of represented? That's all I'm saying. Whether you can do anything, whether you have the power, you guys meet up at a coffee shop someday and talk about it. It just, to me, it makes all the sense in the world. It seems like you're doing yourself a bit of a disservice by not thinking about it. And if you thought about it, then hammer me.
Yeah, the time's up.
Done. That's okay.
We work for the board. They make the decisions on how these things are ran. And in the past, with all ordinances, we've never had anyone from the public. You were saying that we have the power with the internet. I had nothing to do with the internet. Okay, that was all the township board. I just want to clarify so that we don't have inaccurate information out there and people believing that something works differently. We are hired, we are appointed by the board. They say, hey, you people work on all those ordinances, but they ultimately approve them. And we could, say, let's just pretend we want solar panels everywhere on top of people's roofs and everything, and the board would go, well, hell no, we're not doing that,
Fair enough,
okay? So,
fair enough.
we are just like the worker bees, and it gets approved by the township board.
I've said it one last time.
Okay.
I will never say it again. I've
Okay.
said it in the other meeting too, and I'm just trying
I'm
my
just
best.
trying to clarify how things
Just
work,
trying to
because
help them.
people
I
are
worked in a big
confused.
company, and it's one of those things that if you can somehow,
Well,
make
you
it
understand
work.
bureaucracies then if you work in a big company.
I do, and that's why I'm trying to help. And so,
Okay,
it is what it is.
we're done.
And
Hey, is there a way to get you along with the board who makes the decisions with us as a whole?
They approve, like, you can come to the public
But you
hearing.
just said, you don't make the decisions, the board does.
Yeah, they do a final approval, they have
Well,
us put
can we
stuff
get a
together.
meeting with those people and
You
you
can go to the
and
township
us?
board meetings,
When is the next township board meeting?
next
Next
Thursday.
Thursday,
next,
PM.
I'm talking about everybody together.
That's the town.
That's
hall
what they were
meeting.
talking about, Dan had said about getting together a town hall.
Yeah, Julie will have more information on that. She's our township clerk, and she should have more information on that at the upcoming board meeting. The town hall, that will be included with anybody and everybody who would like to be involved.
And this is when?
I don't know that we have a date set.
The next board meeting?
I'm sorry, the next board meeting is next Thursday, 8 PM.
And is that?
That's right.
It's here. And you can go to the Iosco Township, twb.org.com, and I go there all the time, but all the meeting dates are listed on there as well, for both the planning commission and the township.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
Real quick. I do understand everyone's confusion with the committee because we did have 2 board members who recommended it, and then it was changed somewhere in between meetings. It wasn't the planning commission that had anything to do with deciding about the committee. Maybe Joe, but he was on both boards. But I have a question for Sherry and Pat. I just am curious how you guys feel about not being part of this committee, being part of the conversation. I'm just curious.
I trust what they're gonna, and they're gonna bring it back to us, I mean, just
They're
they're
gonna
gonna bring
be-
it back to you.
Okay.
They may see what me and him did, and the lawyers and go, are you crazy? And not like it, and we have to then take it back to the land planner and the lawyers until it becomes something that everyone can live with.
There's nothing unilateral about what's happening.
I was gonna say,
Oh,
we're,
I understand. I was just honestly curious. you know.
I feel it has to start somewhere.
Sure.
I feel we have the land planner, the attorneys, these are people knowledgeable more than myself. This is where the ideas start. These two are very capable of relaying thoughts from all of you and us and everyone. So I think it has to start with a smaller group. They get some ideas together, they get some concrete things going, they bring it to us, to you, and then it goes. Because sometimes we don't need a lot of ideas all at the same time. We have to have a starting point. And you've provided us a lot of information, and we've heard you, and we're trying to go forward with it. Pardon?
Taking notes.
Yeah,
Yes,
and I
yeah.
hope that you got my email, I sent that to you.
I did.
Already, yeah.
And I shared it, yeah.
We've even expanded on that a little bit,
Mhm.
so.
I hope so, because there was a lot I feel like was missing.
Yeah, no,
there,
there
but-
was more stuff added.
So is the land planner gonna be writing this ordinance, or is it gonna be the attorney?
That's what he was hired for, not by us.
Right.
By the township board. We never even had one before.
Right.
So, I mean, he has done a lot of good things, because from
I
what we had.
understand.
Because
I'm
we
just
weren't-
focused on solar
I know.
and even wind, which is terrible too. I was just curious, because we're hiring, Michael Homier, and that's his expertise, so I was just curious who's gonna actually write it. So you guys are gonna meet with Homier, discuss it, and he's gonna give you his legal input along with John Harris?
Yes, and
And then
land planner
Idleson's
takes
gonna go
all
back
of
and
those
write it up.
ideas, and he's the expert writer to put it in a format, that we have in our ordinance. And then if we don't like something, he changes it, or he discuss, obviously with the lawyers there, he will be discussing, like, why that would work or it won't work.
Right.
So, And this, I guess, since we're talking as the final thing, I'm glad you did say, wind, Aaron. You know, none of us ever were like pro-solar, or like, oh yeah, like we're trying to invite it in. It just like wind, it's not a big deal, so it was just in the ordinance. You should have something in your ordinance about it, so that if someone wanted to come in here, you have some kind of controls. That's what happened with solar. It's not like we were going, hey, everybody, there's no sideline underground agenda. And I just feel personally like I have to say that, because it upsets me when people think that we had some kind of agenda, or when people come in here and say we want kickbacks or something. There's nothing. Who basically volunteers up here?
It's not directed
I'm
at
just
you
saying
guys.
our
I think
piece.
you know, Tammy, you know that's not directed at you guys. We all know
But
that
I
the
know,
board has
I
some
work
people.
with these people and people in this township.
I
Like I said, I was
understand.
deputy treasurer back in 2004. I knew Connie and Joe and Pete and all. They're all good people. They're not trying to rip anybody off. That's not how Iosco Township is.
Trying to be fair to everybody.
Yeah.
Landowners, homeowners.
Yeah, and we
But
all
if it
have,
was a
you know,
different land use, I do take issue with that when you say be fair to landowners, homeowners. Because if any other kind of land use came into this township wanting to take over thousands of acres, you guys would be all over it.
And the
So
one thing
that's
I would
where
say,
I have a little,
yeah, no,
I take
and
a
I
little
know, I
issue with that.
understand. In the large SES, I get what you're saying, like, it's like, oh, we can go everywhere, but remember, all the hoops someone has to jump through. A large SES is basically considered a quarter acre. And I don't think anyone here would go, oh, a quarter acre is considered large. But they would have to do all those requirements if it was just a quarter, if it was 10,001 square feet, which is just over a quarter acre. So that kind of in itself discourages people from just covering their own little parcels all over. You know, they're going to go with just a small personal one. I think maybe the reasoning was like maybe the large fields, if a landowner who had large fields wanted to do it, could maximize. You know, could have been, you know, the thought process. But it wasn't to cover the township or for any of us to get rich. Because I have no stake in this. None of us do. Yeah.
I realize you don't, but there's 3 board members that do.
You know, I can't speak for them. They're landowners. They had their reasonings, and I don't want to speak
Well,
to them.
you know, let's be real about this.
I'm not going to debate other people's business. I was just airing my personal opinions and
Well,
trying to
I
let people know
realize
that
that,
we're
but
trying
when
to
you
be
said that our town,
transparent.
you kind of included the board when you said that.
Well, they
And
are.
no one's
I mean-
out to rip anyone off.
They're not there to rip anyone off. If you owned a bunch of property, you might have a different outlook on it. If you're being honest.
I would never even think that you would even look at it.
But some
Okay?
people might.
It would be like, oh God, they're not gonna do that. I mean, that would just be,
Regardless of what side you're on, sir, you know it all comes down to money. Pro or anti, it's all about money.
I said that,
And I will say that.
in
And that's
post.
something we can agree on. But it's on
And I
both
think
sides.
DTE
It's on
is
both
gonna
sides.
show these farm owners who's boss when it comes time to when these power plants come online, and they got these $1,000 unbelievable leases that they're putting out for them. And they're just gonna do what they did to their own employees. That's all I'm gonna say, I'm sorry.
And we don't get anything in return for it, the common person.
I like what you had to say.
That's true.
Giving the landowners that live across the street.
Go ahead, get
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't really plan on having it prepared today, it's probably more appropriate for the board. But, and not to resurrect the gravel mystery, but when that came up, I picked up on what I think is a pretty fair representation of what's going on in the community and living on edge. And those homes that are kind of in the middle, that, you know, they may not want it, but they don't see it, or, you know, maybe not impacted so much. But I want to make sure that there's attention given to those homes that are surrounding these lease agreement proposed areas, and how detrimental that is going to be to them. I mean,
That's what it
I mean,
feels like.
you cannot convince me in these misguided stats that on home value. I mean, there's no way. When No, I'm not speaking directly to you, and I know I'm running out of time to keep checking, but it's, I just want to make sure that the people are not lost in this discussion and not buried in these stats that really have no merit locally. I mean, you know, we get these letters and they reference before and after pictures of you know, from places that aren't local when we see what's going on, you know, around us. And again, I've got more to say, I think it's more appropriate for the board meeting, but I just trust that there's due diligence going on and the right information is being considered. Because what I see out there is, it's misguided, and it's not a representation of the people that it's going to impact. Not every person is impacted the same way. I mean, there are homes, mine included, that are going to be near worthless.
Yeah. You'd be lucky to
If there's no market, where's the value, right? I mean, 15 years from now, when I'm too tired to maintain what I have and I want to downsize, all that value I've lost, everything I put into it is gone. I mean, that's retirement delays, that's children's educations that are now in question. I mean, how do I fund that? I mean, everything that's been worked hard for a long time is gone. I mean, it's very clear. It's not, we need real data points, and I guess I just ask that you seek those out and use the correct information and you care about, you know, everybody that's impacted, some more than others. There's a lot of homes that are directly facing these proposed areas. I mean, I'm right out my front window, right out my back window. I mean, I think it's just worth saying. I mean, I picked up on that vibe just now, that there's a community on edge here because of the unknowns.
All right. You wanna call it?
I've got a comment.
Oh, we
I'd like to,
had our call of the public.
I'd just like to,
Really quick,
a few
really
words
quick.
to summarize what was just said.
Okay.
The farmers are making some money off their land, and that's their prerogative. Me as a homeowner, what do I get? I get a house value that plummets. And on top of that, I have to look at it. So that's not a fair balance. It's not even close to being fair. That's it.
I'm kind of reiterating in the same topic. You know what, you can't tell people what they can and can't do with their property as long as they're, you know, within the laws, regulations, all of that stuff. But I guess, you know, if they're gonna put these things up, it's different if it's like somewhere, you know, no man's land. You know, there's not other homes around it, it's not seen, it's not, you know, lowering property values of others around them, that kind of thing. But I have just been informed where I live that the farm field, so in my home, it's a very tiny subdivision, there's about 20 homes. You look out the front window, across the street, it's all farmland. You look out our back, it's all farmland. We are literally surrounded by the beauty of all of that property, you know, and of the wildlife. It's just, it is so peaceful. It's what drew us out there. We've been there 33 years. Now I have been told that the gentleman across the street from our little subdivision has signed the lease. And I'm gonna see that, you know what I mean? And he's right, I mean, our value, who's gonna want to live in our home if we were to sell it when you look out your front window and you see that? You know, that's just, that's not rural, that's not country, it's just, it's scary. And I you know, I don't even know if people really care about the people that are gonna lose the value of it. That's our retirement, is our home. You know, and I'm scared to death now. I really am. It's like, I don't want to move, you know, I mean, it's just so beautiful, you know. And I mean, I know a few of we've actually in our little suburbs, like 6 homes that have sold. These are people who came from the city, I mean hardcore city people. And they moved all the way out here and they just, like, they're just like so calm, you know what I mean? There's this calmness, their blood pressure's down until they get back in the car and go to work back to the city. But it's even if you're in Brighton, you leave Brighton, you're just like, ugh, you know, you hit Mason Road and you're headed home and you just feel the calmness. And now I'm scared to death to see that. It's like something you would see, you know, in like these huge city areas, other states, you know what I mean, you know, huge populations. And then I was told that that's not benefiting anybody in the area. I mean, yes, the farmers, I do respect what they do. I know several farmers, and it is hard work. And it's not wealthy. You know, I mean, they put a ton of money into farming and rely on Mother Nature, you know, for a profit. And they have a right to do what they want. I just feel, and I hope, I don't even know if they'll listen to the people that their homes are right there. It's not just one house that can be hit hard by this, you know. It's just scared to death. I mean, I'm gonna lose everything.
Your 3 minutes is up, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Can I say just one?
No, I'm gonna call
Hey,
the
Tammy,
meeting.
Tammy, I just want to ask one question. Have you guys ever, well, have you seen a map, or do you know how many acres are leased in our township? Do you guys have an idea?
I don't, and I've said this before at other meetings.
I
want
know.
to be objective, I don't want to know.
Okay,
And the other thing is, just as a thought, since we're talking here, just because there's a lease signed, from what I'm to understand about leases, it does not mean 100% for sure that something's gonna go in there.
right.
There are leases all over up north for oil and gas. People sign leases and nothing is ever done with them. There's gonna be, you know, obviously, there'll be engineering studies, someone's gonna decide if it's a good site or not. I mean, I don't know, people did it for the money, maybe it won't go in at in their place and they'll get money while they're on the lease, but I don't know.
But do
And
you realize there's like 2,000 plus acres in our small township that are leased? That's a lot of acreage.
No, I just,
I know you don't want to know who it is, and I respect that,
Yeah.
but that's a lot of property. That's why we're here and we're upset. It's not a couple acre, or, you know, it's not a couple hundred, it's a couple thousand, so.
Is it all in the same area?
Pretty
Or
much
is it-
so.
Yep.
It's pretty much,
It's mostly south.
Pretty much, yeah,
yeah, it's
Mostly
south.
south.
yeah.
Bull Run, Coon Lake, Roberts Road.
Roberts, all
It's-
around our-
Yeah, it's very dense. So it does affect a lot of us, and it affects us big, you know. The ones that are affected, you know, the ground zeros, there's a lot of us.
Well,
There's a lot of property that's leased. That's why we're afraid.
yeah.
It's hoping you will hear us and that you take, you know, what we're saying, you know. You are basically like the mouse for everybody, you know what I mean? And it's, somebody's, I don't know, I've just never been so afraid to lose something that is so precious to us.
I've lost sleep over it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Several nights of sleep
a
over
lot of us have.
it. That's how bad it is.
I'm sorry that people feel that way. I really am.
It's terrible. It's that
I don't,
bad.
I don't want to say that I know how things will be 100%. I don't know that. But I can say that I know my sister-in-law moved from Austin, Texas, by the landfill in Novi. And some of the homes that are going in over there are starting at 300, 400,000 by a landfill.
They're putting homes like that?
Yeah, and they're very nice homes, and people are buying them, so.
But that's
Novi.
Novi.
Just, you know, I just think about
That's-
that, I'm like, well.
300,000 in
They're probably gonna
Novi.
sell.
300,000 in Novi is not high. That's
That's
low.
cheap.
Yeah.
That's very
And
low.
Novi's city, it's not rural, you know.
That's very
Yeah, I mean, it used to be rural.
It's
All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna call the meeting.
Yeah.
What's the time?
7:57.
7:57. All right. Thank you everyone for coming. Everyone have a great rest of the evening.